With Battlebond being released, a lot of interesting, fun cards are being created for Legacy and Commander. Unfortunately, Modern hasn't really gotten anything, except we did get one thing, the reprinting of Doubling Season, which is a awesome card, and so since it's gotten reprinted, I figured now's the time to make a Doubling Season Planeswalker deck. So this deck is focused around Doubling Season, which is a 5-mana enchantment originally printed in Ravnica that doubles all the counters that you put on things and doubles all the tokens you get. Now, when a Planeswalker comes into play, you put a number of loyalty counters on it. But when you have Doubling Season out, you get to double the amount of loyalty counters you put on it when it comes into play. So that means we are playing a bunch of Planeswalkers that when Doubling Season is out, we can play and immediately activate their ultimate, which is going to be good enough in most cases to just win the game on the spot. So our major way of winning the game with Planeswalkers is to find a way to tutor up Emrakul, the AEONS Torn. And this is accomplished through most of the Planeswalkers' ultimates. We have 2 copies of JACE, Architect of Thought, which can search our library for card, exile it, and then we can cast it. So we can find an Emrakul, cast it, take an extra turn, swing with it. We also get a card out of our opponent's library as well. So maybe we pick up a counter spell for protection or a removal spell to deal with a blocker. We were running 3 copies of NAHIRI, which also allows us to search our library for a creature card and put it into play. NAHIRI doesn't cast Emrakul like JACE does, but she does give it haste. So we'll be able to attack it immediately with Emrakul the turn we get it. SAMUT the Tested is a new card from Hour of Devastation that also allows us to tutor up a creature card and put it into play. Now, she doesn't cast it, and she doesn't give it haste, but she lets us find 2 cards. So what we can do is we can use her ultimate to just pull up 2 Planeswalkers, like the JACE or the NAHIRI, who can then find the Emrakul. We're running 1 copy of TAMIYO. Now, TAMIYO doesn't find Emrakul, but she does draw us cards and get us an emblem that allows us to cast everything from our hand for free. So this means if we've already drawn the Emrakul, we can cast it for free. It also means that any Planeswalkers we have in our hand, we can play immediately as well. New from DOMINARIA, we're playing 2 copies of TEFERI. TEFERI gets to activate his ultimate immediately as well. And again, this doesn't help us find Emrakul, but it is a game-winning ultimate as long as the game keeps going. It allows us to exile our opponent's cards every time we draw. So this can help us stay alive as we find a way to get Emrakul out of our deck. The reason he's in here is his +1 and -3 are also both very good if we don't have Doubling Season out, in that it allows us to get rid of a bothersome permanent and draw deeper to find our Doubling Season. We're running 2 copies of JACE, CUNNING, CASTAWAY. This is another one of our win conditions. If we have Doubling Season out, we can play him and immediately use his ultimate, making 4 tokens of himself. Since Doubling Season also copies the tokens you make, instead of making 2, you're going to get 4 JACE, CUNNING, Castaways. And all of them are going to come in with 6 loyalty and can immediately ultimate again, basically giving you infinite number of JACE, CUNNING, Castaway Planeswalkers, who can then make an infinite number of 2/2 blue illusion creatures. We have 1 copy of ELSPETH. ELSPETH's ultimate doesn't really do a lot unless we've used her +1 a few times. Her +1 is very, very good and is very good against a lot of the decks that are out there. So if we don't have Doubling Season, this is a great Planeswalker just to play for 6 mana. We can destroy creatures, we can put up blockers, so definitely worth an inclusion. CHANDRA FLAMECALLER fits in this deck in that same vein where it doesn't win us the game on the spot, but it's very good at dealing with opposing boards if we don't have a Doubling Season out. Her -X can clear the board with from a bunch of creatures. Her 0 can cycle our hand so we can draw deeper to that Doubling Season. It's also good if we've drawn the Emrakul, we can discard the Emrakul, shuffle it back into our library. And finally, we're running 1 UGIN the Spirit Dragon. Again, this is a very powerful card that can wipe the board with his -X, and his ultimate is probably game-winning since we get to gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, and put 7 permanents in play. And if hopefully a few of those are Planeswalkers or additional Doubling Seasons, we'll probably be able to win the game on the spot right there. To help us ramp up to all of these Planeswalkers and this 5-mana enchantment, we're running 12 ramp creatures, 4 Birds of Paradise, 4 Noble Hierarch, and 4 Sylvan Caryatid. We're running one copy of Idyllic Tutor as an enchantment tutor effect. This can find one of our doubling seasons, but it also can find Blood Moon in the main board, and we have a lot of enchantments in our sideboard that this can go find as well. The one copy of Blood Moon is mostly for hosing decks that have greedy mana bases. Between all of our mana production creatures and our basics, we should be able to operate under Blood Moon despite being a 4-color deck. We're also running 4 copies of Oath of Nissa, so even if we have a Blood Moon out, Oath of Nissa will allow us to cast any of our Planeswalkers for any kind of mana. So all of those mountains will still be able to tap and help you cast that Jace or that Elspeth. And lastly, in our main deck, we have 1 copy of Engineered Explosives. Since we are running 4 colors, this is just a very good card dealing with whatever sort of threats our opponent might have. Our sideboard features a bunch of enchantments that are great to find with Idyllic Tutor. We've got 2 copies of Rest in Peace for our Graveyard Hate. We have 2 copies of Stony Silence as Artifact Hate. We have 3 copies of Leyline Sanctity to help deal with Gifts Ungiven or Discard or Lightning Storm. We're running a Worship, which is very good when we have creatures like Sylvan Caryatid who have hexproof and can be very difficult for some decks to deal with. We have an extra copy of Blood Moon for those matchups where we want that effect. And we're running 1 Oblivion Ring just as an additional catch-all removal card. Finally, we have 3 Fire Spout and 1 Wrath of God as wrath effects for the creature decks, and 1 Ancient Grudge as sort of a way to deal with artifacts that don't have activated abilities that we want to get rid of. So cards like Pithing Needle can be very good against all of our Planeswalkers. So having 1 copy of Ancient Grudge I think is also very good. Well, that's the deck. If you want to see me play this deck on stream, leave me a comment, send me something on Twitter, let me know, and we'll take this for a spin. Also, let me know if you want to see any changes made to this deck before I do take it on stream. There's definitely things that can be changed or tweaked, so if you have any ideas or something you want to see in here, let me know and I might make an inclusion. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I see you on the stream.